Welcome to Perfect Imperfections, a safe space for healing, the podcast that embraces our unique journey of healing and growth. I'm Evita van Eelen, your host and a fellow traveler on this path of self-discovery. Each episode, I will share my personal experiences, insights, and lessons learned, as well as explore various topics related to healing, mental health, and self-acceptance. In a world that often focuses on perfection and appearance, we tend to forget that everyone has their own struggles and imperfections. This podcast aims to create a safe and non-judgmental space where we can openly discuss the challenges we face and find solace in the knowledge that we are not alone. Through my own story, I will dive deep into topics such as burnout, depression, anxiety, and the impacts of societal expectations. I will also explore techniques, tools, and resources that have helped me in my healing journey. Remember, healing is not linear, and we all have our own unique paths. By sharing our vulnerabilities and celebrating our imperfections, we can foster a sense of understanding, empathy, and connection. So join me on this transformative journey as we uncover the power of embracing our perfect imperfections. Let's create a safe space for healing, one episode at a time. Welcome back all to the second episode of Perfect Imperfections, a safe space for healing. Today, during this episode, I want to talk about burnout symptoms and settings that can be stressful or can be triggering for burnout. I want to talk to you about that, first of all, by mentioning some symptoms that are just facts. And in the second part, I want to talk about my own personal experiences, because I've had 5 burnouts in 20 years, which is a bit much. So I have plenty of personal experience to talk about, and that's what I want to do today. And I want to stress that it's personal experience. So I am not a therapist, let alone a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. If at any point you feel that you need help or think you might be experiencing a burnout or have questions about that, check in with your family doctor, your GP, specialist, mental health specialist. Always be sure to find a professional, because that's something I'm not. Personal experience, I have loads of that though. So that's what I want to talk to you about. But before I get into this subject, I want to get real honest with you guys here. And it's a little bit off topic, but at the same time, it's on topic. This podcast is something that I've been talking about doing for months now. And I've really felt the need to start this podcast to talk about subjects that for a lot of people might not be easy to talk about. And in my head, I figured, I'll just do that. I'll wing it. I have plenty of experiences. I'm an easy talker. I can tell stories. Let's just do that. And then I had to start this and I choked. And I felt such resistance to doing this. I've worked on that with my coach. And then miraculously, I was able to record the introduction of myself and this podcast. Man, I was over the moon with that. I was so proud about myself. And I'm still proud of myself, don't get me wrong. But in the meantime, weeks have passed before I was able to record this podcast episode. So in the meantime, I've turned 35. Yay me. It was a great day. But also, I've had to struggle with my perfectionism. Because my perfectionism was trying to get me to do everything right. Get the tone of voice right, get the story right, no ums, oofs, ahs, pauses, whatnot. So I've recorded the information for this episode already so many times. I've typed it already so many times. And it was never right. So I left it for a bit. In the meantime, life happened and it went on and I got a bit more experience. And finally, I just got into that vibe of, fuck it, I'll just record it. I'll just do it. Yes, that's the mindset for me at the moment. I need to get in to just do it. And then this morning, I got up, nervous, a bit anxious, but like, yes, I'm just gonna do this. And I recorded everything and I felt so proud of myself. And it went, for me, it went well, it went right. Perfectionism speaking here. And then I opened up the program again and my laptop, because the screen had gone black because I'd been talking for quite some time. And then it turned out that it had only recorded the first 10 minutes and then my screen had gone black and it had gone into sleep mode, which stopped the recording. Oh man, I was so pissed off, really. Now, a couple of hours later, I can look on it and as you can hear, I can laugh about it. It is so funny to me. Annoying, don't get me wrong, annoying, but so funny. And this is my mindset for a lot of things. Humor, being able to reflect on situations and then see the bright side of it. Because the bright side is I got a do-over chance and I got to reflect a bit more on how I want to do this, what my process is. And like I said, I'm in the mindset of, fuck it, I'll just wing it. You'll get what you get with me. And if I forget anything, I might record another episode and get back to you on that. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. But today I want to talk about burnout symptoms, because there are quite a few symptoms. And they are basically divided in mental symptoms and physical symptoms. And I didn't know this because even though I've had help from professionals before, I'd never seen or heard of a list of symptoms that are linked to burnouts. But 2.5 years ago, when I started working with my coach, Marjolein from Marjolein Matters, she, by the way, has a podcast as well. It's in Dutch. It's called the Prikkel Podcast. And if you are Dutch or you can understand the language, it's highly recommended that you tune into that for once. It's very interesting stuff. But Marjolein gave me the list of burnout symptoms so it could really sink in what I was going through. 2.5 years ago, I was really at my lowest with my 5th burnout. She gave me this list. And even at that time, while I was spaced out as could be, I could connect the dots that if these are burnout symptoms, all the other periods in my life where I was just thinking, oh, I'm a bit depressed or I've experienced a bit too much stress, I was burned out. So that's led me to conclude that I've had 5 burnouts in 20 years' time. And some of the mental symptoms are memory problems, memory loss, short-term memory issues, fear and anxiety complaints, panic attacks, feeling highly insecure, low self-esteem, having a negative outlook on life, and also thinking when you have situations, only thinking negative, finding it hard to find a bright side at all, but also being very irritable, angry, frustrated, having a short fuse. So basically being highly emotional, but being erratic in it. Also quickly to feel very sad, almost depressed. Feeling like you're being pressured and chased or hunted. But on the other hand, also finding it very hard to make decisions. But you keep thinking about them, so you overthink everything. And having concentration issues, those are all symptoms that can lead, well, not necessarily lead, but can point to the fact that you are experiencing a burnout. So those are the mental symptoms. Then you have the physical symptoms. And symptoms that are physical that can point to you having a burnout are having issues with muscle tension, muscle cramps, muscles that are constantly in alert mode, on tension, having back complaints, neck complaints, cramps, muscle pains, high blood pressure, problems with your intestines, heart palpitations, a weak immune system, like in every single bug or virus that is out there, you're having it, hyperventilation, sleeplessness, headaches, tension headaches, but also migraines, feeling very, very fatigued, shortness of breath, and in general, a lack of energy. So also with the will as in, I don't want to do anything because I don't have the energy. Those are all symptoms for that can conclude that you might have burnout. It is quite a list. I know that. And when Marjolein sent me this, I was taken aback and shocked. Because I, throughout my life, felt a number of these symptoms, both physically and mentally, for longer periods of time. And I just wasn't aware of it because I was, as you are, you're busy, you're underway. I didn't want to feel like I was complaining, or I was told, oh, you always have something. Why can't you just be normal? At one point in time, then you stop paying attention. Well, I stopped paying attention to it. But now looking back, I can conclude I've had 5 moments in my life where I basically had a burnout. And next thing I want to talk to you about is the settings, the circumstances that can lead to a burnout. Because on the one hand, you have the symptoms, but you also have circumstances that can trigger or can be triggering or cannot be conducive. One of the obvious ones is work. If you work in a stressful environment or a toxic environment, or you have issues with colleagues, yes, that can trigger stress and can trigger stressful reactions. But a lot of other times people also experience stressfulness or stress triggers in their personal life, which can be family related. It can also be related to your relationship with your partner, or it can be to social settings, relationship with friends, but also social settings where you do or do not want to go to. Because if you feel anxiety for a lot of things, especially in social settings, and you're more introverted, going out can be stressful. And can trigger mental and physical symptoms that can eventually, if you keep them on too long and possibly don't deal with them in a way that's really helpful for yourself, it can lead to burnouts. And this is something I will be touching on as well when I'm talking about my experiences. Because we're going to start with the start. Well, we're going to start with the first one. And the first one, now in hindsight, happened when I was 14 or 15 years old. I was in high school, and the Dutch high school system is built. You have different levels. You take a test in middle school, and then that test determines the level in high school that you're going to follow. And I was in a level which then means that you have 6 years of high school to do. So I was in the trajectory for 6 years of high school. And in my 4th year, I was struggling. Like I said, I have the tendency to be a perfectionist. And which meant for me, I wanted to get good grades. Which meant that I was putting so much pressure on myself to perform that I was basically overdoing it. Didn't know that at the time, but now in hindsight, that's what I was doing. And I, in that 4th year of high school, I developed cramps in my jaws. They were on and off, but in the end, it almost led to the fact that for a year, I was having intense muscle cramps in my jaws, where basically my whole face started hurting. Because what I did, all that tension that I was feeling and anxiety and pressure, I was somehow not releasing that and storing it in my jaws, which made the muscles cramp like crazy, which meant that eating was difficult, painful, talking was painful, but also doing nothing at all was painful. And my ears started hurting because of the tension in my jaws. Then your head starts hurting, and basically you're hurting all the time. This is a quick... this is me quickly telling you what it was. At the time, we didn't know. So my mom took me to our family GP. He didn't know. She took me to the hospital where I had multiple tests done, where I had a specialist look at it because they were afraid there was something wrong with my jaw, with the bones. It wasn't. In the end, the conclusion was that, it's muscle tension, it's cramps, it's stress that's being stored there. So me as a 15-year-old got a prescription for 7 to 10 days that I needed to take 3 times a day, 600 milligrams of ibuprofen. I was someone who wasn't used to taking any pain medication because I hardly ever did it. Because why would you, I would just toughen it out. That's basically the mindset that we had in our household. So when I got that prescription and I had to take 600 milligrams 3 times a day of ibuprofen, it resulted in me being high as a kite for 7 to 10 days, which luckily for me was precisely during the period where in school I would be stressed out the most because it was test week. We would have one every quarter. So every 10 weeks, I believe, 8 to 10 weeks, you would have a week where you had tests of all the subjects that you have just learned about. And those for me were stressful because I wanted to perform. And those test week would usually give me hives, sleepless nights, cold sweats, you name it. I had so many physical and mental symptoms. But this time around, I was high on ibuprofen. Not a care in the world. My grades were good that week as well, which was so funny. The teachers were like, what is happening here? And actually, my mentor made my mom come in and show them the doctor's prescription for this medication because they were so concerned. But all was well. It was all on doctor's advice. And I actually sailed flawlessly through that week. Felt relaxed, felt good. For the first time in forever, I wasn't sick afterwards. And in the end, it helped me get rid of all the muscle tension there. And I never had a jaw cramp again. So yeah, that was great. And we all thought it was resolved. Now, leading me to my next situation where now in hindsight I believe I was highly burned out was my first year of university. I was 17 going on 18, and in that time, yes, I feel so old saying this, and I'm only 35, but in that time it was normal that if you went to college or university that was not relatively close to your parents' house, let's say 30 minutes to an hour's drive from your parents' house, it was normal that you would move out. Get a room in the city where you were going to live, which then meant, of course, that you had to take fully care of yourself, as in you had to do your washing, your cleaning, your grocery shopping, your cooking, your planning of that, your financials, get a job. That was all included, and that was normal during that time. That's what I did. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17 because it was a 3.5 hours commute time from my parents to university. I was not going to do that every day to and from. So I moved out, and in a new city, I was green as grass. I figured that the best way to make friends and to fit in somewhere was join a sorority. So that's what I did. So I moved out, got a job, joined a sorority, started uni. And then in my first year of university, in my second week, I had a very negative experience with one of my teachers. He called on me to answer a question in class, and I didn't have the question, or I didn't have the answer. And I don't remember exactly how, but I mentioned that I was dyslexic. And this teacher then verbally really drilled me into the ground and made me feel highly insecure about myself, because in his opinion, if you were dyslexic, you are stupid and there is no place for you at university. And everybody has the right to their own opinion. That's not something I'm discussing here right now. But the way he did it in front, me standing up in front of class, in a class of all my peers, I was 17 years old, and he humiliated me. As you can imagine, mentally that took its toll on me. As in insecurity, check. Yes. Low self-esteem, highly, check. Emotional, yes, I was that as well. Being afraid to make decisions because I was made to feel stupid and unworthy to be there, yes, check. So from the burnout symptom list, the mental symptoms, yes, I was checking a lot of them. This was one trigger because, like I said, I started a new life completely, had to learn new things, wanted to succeed in all of them. Well, as you can imagine, no, that was not a successful year. Yes, I was able to sustain myself. I kept myself alive, got my laundry done, cooked proper food, and like I said, I joined the sorority. I quit the sorority because, as it turned out, I am not the sorority type of girl. That's not for me. And in the end, in university as well, I decided to cut back on my classes. So I was decreasing my workload, which in the end led me to pass everything that I needed to pass. But that was a decision that I needed to make. But at that time, it felt like failing, that I had to make that decision. I also got, besides help from my family, because my family knew things weren't going great. Because every weekend I was back at home having dinner at my family's table, crying my eyes out. And they were trying to help me by asking questions. What is going on? If you don't like this, if you don't want that, then what do you want? Well, that's a question for the life of me, I could not answer. I really couldn't, which made me feel even worse because it is a simple question. But I didn't have the answer because I just honestly didn't know, which now in hindsight tells you exactly mentally how far gone I was. My parents knew I wasn't doing well. Not necessarily burned out, but they were afraid that I was highly depressed. So I got help. I went to a psychologist, had some sessions. Don't remember very much of them anymore, to be fair. Because one of the symptoms that I still struggle with from my burnouts is that when I was so stressed out, I blacked out. As in, I don't remember exactly everything that happened then. They're just big black holes in my memory. Whereas usually I have quite a good memory. But those things I don't remember as clearly. I know I saw professional help. And I know that that all of a sudden my dad had all these appointments close to the city where I was living. So every other week we had dinner together. My sister, the same thing. She's a couple of years older than I am. And she all of a sudden also had all these type of appointments near to the city I lived in so that we could do lunch together. And during those times, for me, that was normal. Now, in hindsight, I scared the ever-living crap out of them. Yes, I did. But I got through it. I survived my first year of university. I changed quite some things in my life to reduce stress and workload and pressure. So yeah, that was okay. And then the next 2 years of uni went fine, or well enough at least. I still had to retake half of all the exams that I was doing because my fear of failure. Oh no, that's a story for a whole different podcast. It is a funny story though. Then we come up to my 4th year of university. I was 21. And I say fourth year of university. Normally in the Netherlands, if you follow a straight line through your studies, you get your bachelor in 3 years. Because you get all your points, you hand over your bachelor thesis, and in 3 years you have your bachelor's degree. As my first year was challenging, let's go like that, I had decided to drop out of some classes, but I had to take them to get all the points for the system that I was in. I had to take them the year next. And so I needed a bit more time. And in the end, I decided, well, I'll just do my bachelor thesis in my 4th year. It'll give me more breathing space. And it did. It did. But that means that I was 21 when I was working on my bachelor thesis. And anyone that is having to write a big paper which decides whether you pass or fail will tell you that those times are stressful. And as I studied history, which for someone who is dyslexic is not the most, well, I want to say smart, but it's not the most convenient study to choose. Because history is all about reading and writing, the 2 areas where I would need additional time. Or sometimes I struggle a little bit. But thanks to my studies in history, I excel in both fields nowadays where hardly anyone notices that I have dyslexia. But yeah, during the studies, it was challenging. It also meant that my mum had to check all my papers for spelling mistakes. Because you think you study history, so yes, spelling, grammar, it is important, but it's not that important. Well, the teachers that I had thought differently about that. I could have well studied the Dutch language. That was the level I needed to perform on. So my mum, oh man, she also got a degree in history. Basically, she checked everything. But yeah, that final year where I had to write my bachelor thesis was difficult because I put so much pressure on myself. So much pressure on myself. So especially in the mental department, I was showing a lot of burnout symptoms. But also physically, I was exhausted, tired, muscle cramps. Not in my jaw anymore, but still. Sleeplessness, headaches. I was having a lot of them all. In the end, I got through it. That's a whole nother story as well, because of course I was having issues with that teacher that was guiding me through the bachelor thesis as well. But I'll reserve that for a different podcast episode. So yeah, that was my final year. I was 21. And in hindsight, I was burned out then as well, which meant that afterwards I got a job, which was okay, was just basically paying the bills. It wasn't challenging at all because I couldn't handle challenge at that time. But yes, I had finished my history degree and I passed, I graduated, which meant that I was now officially part of the workforce. Yay! I had a couple of different jobs at different times. And in the end, I ended up with a relocation company. A relocation company that moves expats, people that move for their job to different countries all over the world. And you basically had two divisions in that, as in the people that move the household goods for the expats and the people that actually guided the expats on their move and let them know what they would need. I was in the latter division, so I was having a lot of personal contact with the expats and guiding them, which I loved because I love communicating and I love to help people, hence me starting this podcast. But it also was a job that was highly demanding because with expats, if you work with them from all over the world, you work with all different time zones, which meant that I had to be on or at least available almost 24 hours a day. And being on 24/7 is not conducive for me. Let's put it like that. On top of that, I was having in my private life on multiple factors, having issues and challenging situations, stress. And then the work environment I was working in wasn't the best. At a certain point, it even turned toxic. And as I already told you guys, with all the symptoms, but also the settings that can trigger or cannot be conducive to burnouts, I was having the perfect cocktail for another one. And I tried to get ahead of it. I really did. But in the end, it turned out I was too late. And I had to call in sick. And in the Netherlands, you have the system that every employer needs to be insured for these kind of things when their employee gets sick. And then they need to hire a GP, a doctor, basically a company doctor, where said employee can go to and get reviewed and see what is necessary to get them back into the working force. I knew, as I said, I knew I wasn't doing well because I was very much aware of all the stress and all the components of my life that I was experiencing, that I needed help. So I tried to preemptively get a consult with the company GP. That wasn't possible, unfortunately, because my complaint wasn't taken seriously. And in the end, it meant that I had to call in sick. Then I was able to meet up with the GP, but still wasn't taken seriously. So within 3 weeks, I was put back to work. And as any specialist or, licensed therapist, good GP will tell you, if you have a burnout, the first thing you have to take away is pressure. So you have to take it easy. And that wasn't happening with me because I was put back to work in 3 weeks. In the end, I left that company for a different job, a job where I had to work few hours, which was closer to home, same pay or even better pay, which allowed me to take the pressure off myself. By doing that and also getting into therapy, I thought that I was doing enough to help myself with that. And after that period, I even went traveling for 7 months, which was nice, which was really nice. So all in all, I had thought that I had done everything that I needed to do to help myself, to reduce triggers, to mentally get stronger. Because I had sought out all the help that I thought I needed at the time. So I was convinced I was doing great. And then I came back from my travels. And this was 2019. Yeah, 2019. And I came back broke as can be because I had spent every penny traveling. I've had an amazing experience, and I would recommend everybody to go out and travel and enjoy and see and experience. And I made the conscious decision to spend every penny I had on that journey, which was amazing. But yeah, then I came back and I needed to get a job ASAP because I needed to pay rent. So I got a job in a company where I was supposed to be only temporary, because I was replacing a management assistant that was on sick leave because she had a burnout. But it clicked so well, and the company was so happy with me that I got a permanent contract for the management assistant position. So I stayed on. And after a while, I knew I wasn't 100% in the right place for me, but it was okay. But I did start looking around to see if there was a different company with a different job that had a better fit for me. And I was actually in the process of getting offers for that when COVID hit in 2020. And all offers dried up. My partner at the time lost his job, so he became unemployed. All in all, the whole world ended up in a pressure cooker. But also for me personally, stress and pressure was everywhere again. And all the tips and tricks that I had learned in the past from my experiences and from the professionals that I had the opportunity of getting in contact with and getting to know and learning from, I put everything to work. And for a while, I did good. I was doing good. Because I am someone who, for short amounts of time, can thrive on pressure. Because then my creativity comes on. I get really efficient. I have the people skills to deal with it as well. So if it's not a too extended period of time, I can deal with high amounts of pressure really well. But we all know that, especially with COVID, it lasted so long. And every country had its own issues with lockdown. Here in the Netherlands, we had as well. And basically there was just no positive image for the future provided. It was all grim. And in the end, that had mentally had its reflections on me as well, on my partner, on my family, on my friends, on my co-workers, on my manager, on my bosses. Everybody was dealing with an extreme amount of mental stress. So for me, those were the circumstances that led to my fifth burnout. And at the end of 2020, I knew I wasn't doing really well. So I had a good talk with my boss and told him as well, I really need to start working the hours that are actually in my contract versus just morning to night working every single day. Because don't get me wrong, there's always work. There's always work to be done, especially in those times. You could work 24/7 if you wanted to. And I had already learned that that was not my thing. So we had a good chat about that. But then afterwards, nothing really changed, because now, reflecting with the person that I am now, with the knowledge that I have now, reflecting back on the person I was then, almost 3 years ago, I was already too far gone. I felt so responsible for everything and everyone, also for things that were not my responsibility at all. So I couldn't let it go. So my workload did not become less. Also, my personal circumstances, relationships that were very stressful did not become any less. Which again created the perfect storm for me to get my fifth burnout. And it had to get this far that my body actually physically pulled the plug on me. It had never had to come that far, but this time around in 2021, it had to. And like I said, my body pulled the plug on me. It said, no more. Everything hurts. Well, at least then everything was painful. Every muscle in my body. Energy, I had none. Sleeping, I was sleeping like the dead, but not resting. My mind was always on. And never in a positive way. And I was putting everybody else first. My partner, my family, my friends, my coworker, my manager. I was putting everybody else and their mental health, physical health, their interests, their emotions. I was putting everybody before me. And my body in June just had enough. It pulled the plug on me. And that was so scary. So scary. So yeah, those are my 5 experiences. The reason why I shared with you how it came to be is because when I speak to people about burnouts, especially when they are part of the workforce, a lot of people will tell you that their burnout is only job related. Whether that be that it's a toxic work environment, whether that means that the workload is too high, or their communications with colleagues is not optimal. that doesn't really matter. But they often go into victim mode and tell them, yes, it's my boss's fault or it's my job's fault. And I've been that person as well. I've been that person as well, where I said, well, no, this burnout, this one, no, this is triggered by my job. But being completely honest, and nowadays that is something I expect of myself, to be completely honest with myself and other people. Looking back and reflecting, it wasn't. There were a lot of personal factors as well that created the perfect circumstances for me to get a burnout. And that is a very hard and bitter pill to swallow, and it's a hard truth to acknowledge, because it's easier to blame someone else for your circumstances. But this is something I had to explore, or had the opportunity to explore during my coaching that I got from Marjolein. And I couldn't be more grateful for the insights that I was able to gain through her coaching. In the next episode, I will take you with me on the journey that I went through with coaching, because it's a beautiful one. And I say that now, it's a beautiful one. It was, man, I had to move mountains of shit out of the way to get where I am today. And that wasn't easy. But I am extremely grateful for all the opportunities that I've gotten, for all the challenges that I've gotten to face, for all the positive, the negative, the beautiful, the ugly, the funny, the pretty. Every situation brought me to the point where I am today. And I love who I am today. So I couldn't be more grateful for everything that has happened. And that is also something that I really want to share with you all. The subjects that I talk about are quite serious, can be quite heavy. I tried to talk about it in a bit more of an airy way, but it doesn't mean that it's been easy, because in all honesty, it hasn't. But it wasn't, in those times it felt possibly like the end of the world. But looking back on it, some moments were funny as can be. And those things can go hand in hand. One thing can be there, but the other one can be there as well. There's not one truth to it all. So yeah. This was my story about the 5 burnouts that I've had. I'm curious to hear if it has given you any insight to your own situation, or to possibly a situation where you see a friend, a family member go through. And know that if you ever have any questions or want to share something, feel free to reach out. I would love to answer them if I can, or go into conversation. Just know that I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor. I can only speak from personal experience. But what I've learned and how I view things, I'll happily share with you. And I sincerely hope that you'll join in again for the next episode, where I can tell you more about my coaching trajectory that I went through, and the lessons that I've learned, and how I've learned to discover myself, and to possibly finally be able to answer the question, what do I want?